and they would bring us, playing at dive bars. People would bring us trays to the front of the stage because they could just walk right up there, and they'd set down a tray of five well warm well whiskey shots, and you kind of have to take them or else you look like a jerk, and you don't want to look like a jerk in front of your fans. And so my early 20s, I drank a lot of really bad whiskey. And
The intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
We're officially kicking off Whiskey Weeks 2023, maybe a smidge early, but you know what? It seems fitting when we have a band called Whiskey Myers on the podcast. And while it may not be September yet, when it's National Bourbon Heritage Month, I just felt like having you guys on for Whiskey Weeks 2023. Please welcome in their drummer, Jeff Hogg.
Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, and for those that are watching and maybe listening, there's two of us that'll be talking with Jeff, and those that watch Hops and Spirits will know this guy. He's co-host, part of Neat and Mix, Brandon Evans. Brandon, thanks for joining me for this.
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss this one.
he may be a fan if you can't figure out, and my wife wanted to be on as well. She co-hosts from time to time, but she lost her voice this week, so she's listening in on the other AirPod.
Okay. My wife's going through a similar thing right now. She lost her voice about 5 days ago, and she's slowly getting it back. So,
see, now you don't have to worry about that with what you do you? I mean, you can kind of, as long as you're able to move, you're good to go.
Yeah. I just need to have my arms and my legs, and I'm good. I could probably play my eyes closed at this point if I needed to, but
yeah.
So are we going to put you to the test at one point and get you blindfolded, see what happens?
Yeah, I bet I could do it. I did it when I was younger, but just playing in my room to the drum set, the CD player. I haven't done it on stage yet, though, so.
I was going to say, that sounds like a fun challenge. Now, I'm curious what everyone's drinking tonight. I was a mean co-host and friend to Brandon. While I am having, little Uncle Chickens, I forgot to give him some of the bottles. Brandon, do you got anything good?
I'm drinking on some 1920 Prohibition Old Forester right now.
There you go. Now, Jeff, I think you got a show to do tonight, so you're behaving when we talk right now. But I'm guessing you enjoy a good drink every now and then.
Yeah, I tend to have my drinks after the show. Sometimes I'll have one maybe towards the end, like when we have 4 or 5 songs left. I learned a long time ago that I am not very good. I think I'm fantastic in the moment, but then I'll hear a recording. If I've been drinking, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. So I try to play as sober as possible nowadays. But after, I'll have actually, we just got a couple more bottles of Uncle Chickens because we've had a couple bottles on the bus, and anytime we'll have a guest, we'll pour them a glass and let them try it. But we've been out for probably the last 3 or 4 days. So we just got a bunch more tonight, so I'll have some tonight for sure.
Now, are you a whiskey guy by trade, or beer, or tequila? What's your normal go-to?
Whiskey, mainly whiskey. My favorite is an old-fashioned, but it's a lot to make on the road. So if I go to a bar, I'll order an old-fashioned, but if I'm just drinking on the bus, it's usually just whiskey on the rocks. Little splash of water, but it took a long time to come back around to whiskey because when we started the band, we were in our early 20s, and with the band name Whiskey Myers, people just assume that you all love it, and they would bring us, playing at dive bars. People would bring us trays to the front of the stage because they could just walk right up there, and they'd set down a tray of 5 warm well whiskey shots, and you kind of have to take them or else you look like a jerk, and you don't want to look like a jerk in front of your fans. And so my early 20s, I drank a lot of really bad whiskey, and so it took me a while, but now that I'm older, I've come back around and I appreciate bourbon and whiskey and everything. So
Now, when you guys, what was really funny to John and I is because we've reviewed so many different bourbons and whiskeys on our show, Neat and Mixed, and of course we've done the Eric Church stuff, and we've done some other artists that's come out with it, Alan Jackson. But it was funny after we did one of our reviews, and I can't remember which one we did, but we both looked at each other and I said, so we love Whiskey Myers, we love their music. It's one of our top favorite bands. Well, it's only fitting that they should come out with their own whiskey. And it was like the next day, I think there was a press release came out that you guys were coming out with Uncle Chickens. And so we were excited about that. But how involved were you guys with that? With making, doing any kind of selections or tastings or picks or any of that? How much were you all involved with all that?
Our manager had become friends with some of the guys at Bespoken, and they're relatively new, and he had a couple of samples of some of their whiskeys that weren't out to the public yet, and we got to sample what ended up being the one we picked, and we all, as soon as we tried it, we said that's the one. And as far as we got to pick the name, which we did it the way we do everything, which everybody in the band came up with a few names, and we kind of had a little vote. And I personally, I didn't get the name at first. It was Cody's, our lead singer. It was his idea, which the story goes back to. It's a friend of a family that we used to hang out with in Nacogdoches. We used to we would play in Nacogdoches, Texas, and the next day we would stay and hang out at this family's house. It was the Pennies, and we always kept hearing these stories about this guy, and everyone just referred to him as Uncle Chicken. And I never met him. I think Cody and a couple of the other guys actually met him, but the name just stuck in Cody's head. He said that's a funny name, and it would be funny to name it that. So we picked the name. We got to do, the designing of the label and the bottle and various things like that. Yeah, and that's actually
just doing a little show off for everyone watching.
Yeah, and that's actually not the final. What the final bottle will look like. It'll look a little more like textured on the label. The artwork will be the same, but it'll have more texture too. And I have a couple other little leather pieces here and there. But I guess it was time constraints for certain materials. It was either going to be, wait another year to get the final packaging done, or just kind of get it out now. And so it's like a test run, I guess. And the final bottles will look a little different. So.
Well, I know Brandon can attest to this, but I've sampled. I'm doing a little day drinking as we talk, or early evening drinking we'll call, and I like it. It's good. Now we'll see when we review it, but I think we're fans of it. Now, is it also true that, like, obviously this is Uncle Chickens? Did Whiskey Myers' name come from like a fighting chicken or rooster too? I swear I've heard that story somewhere.
we have told so many different stories about where the name, because the real story of where the name came from is kind of boring, and we kind of just started making up stuff over the years, so I'm probably not going to tell y'all the real story. So but yeah,
well, how would we know, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, actually that's true, because we have told people the real thing before, and I think it's even on video somewhere, but no one knows what the real story is. So yeah, it's either someone's relative, or it's a fighting chicken, or it's it's all kinds of stuff.
I love that. I, like that. I love how some of those names come up from bands because I feel like everyone has one, and most sometimes are like, it was really boring. We were in a car, we saw a sign, and that's how it came to be. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, when you are out and about on the road, are you a guy that likes to go find like fun places to eat? Are you a foodie? Are you a donut guy? What's your kind of thing that like your thing?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big foodie. We're in Boston actually right now. We've been here for the last 2 days. We're playing tonight, and then we go on to Baltimore. But I haven't had any seafood. A lot of the other guys have been getting lobster pretty much every day. I think I might get some before we take off. But yeah, I always try to find local eateries or some places like if you go to Philly, I always try to find a good cheesesteak, but not the touristy ones, the actual really good ones. And then yeah, that's been my thing for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. Now that I don't drink a whole lot on the road, and so I don't really go out a whole lot when we have days off, but I try to find something to keep me entertained. So food, donuts. Yeah, I'm a big donut. That's my main vice. If I had to pick one, that's my main one.
I like it.
Same.
Now, so Duck Donuts, when you got to find one of those, that was like the sweet spot for you.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I try not to do too many of the chains, but sometimes the chains are just good. Like Voodoo Donuts. I know when I first had it, it was still just the one in Portland, but now they've branched out, and I think they have one in Austin now. I think they're building one in Dallas. There's one in Orlando. So I go to some of the chain ones, but to me, sometimes the chain doesn't reach Texas because that's where I live. So Duck Donuts, I didn't realize that was a chain, but I think I had it in Virginia last year maybe for the first time, and those are really good. And there's another place called Hertz Donuts, which is it's another small chain kind of similar to those, but I've had that in New Orleans and I've had it in Lincoln, Nebraska. So yeah,
I like it. Yeah. Now, I also think I stumbled upon your social media the other night, and you're also a car guy. Is that right? I think you got a Camaro, a few other nice rides that you've been able to either enjoy or have.
Yeah, I've always been a car guy. My dad is a big Mopar guy. My brother is a big Chevy guy, and I'm just I like anything that's cool. It doesn't have to be domestic. It could even be an import or something. I like just cool cars, and I've got a couple. The Camaro's been a long project. I bought that car January of last year, and I think it's still not done yet, but it'll be done hopefully by the end of this year, the first of next year, and then I'll be able to drive it. I've got a '87 Chevrolet C10 that I just bought back in March, and I've got a GT350, a 2020 GT350. I just bought that a couple weeks ago and have only been able to drive it twice in the last month that I've owned it. So I'm not home a lot.
So quite the collection.
Yeah, but that's the thing that's unfortunate is I'm not home a lot to enjoy them. So I'm starting to think about maybe getting rid of a couple because it's kind of a hassle to take care of 6 cars whenever you're only home for a few days a month. So you only get to drive one of them, and then the other ones sit in storage, and then the other ones you got to get the registration done, but stuff like that. But
How's
a lot of
what's the wife say about all that? Is she into cars too?
she's not into cars, but my wife is. She's amazing. I'm gonna say that first, in case she ever listens to this.
Smart man, very smart man.
She is.
That's
amazing.
what I was thinking. Smart man.
She's not a car person, but she just likes what I like. She likes for me to be happy with what I like. So she'll pretend to be enthusiastic about a car or something, or she'll see a car and point at it and be like, "Hey, look at that car," But she herself is not she's never really been a car person. Actually, it's funny because I had a white F-150 about 3 years ago. I sold it or I traded it in on another white F-150, but it was a newer body style. I had that truck for a week before she even noticed that it was a different truck, because they're just white trucks. It was just the same white four-door truck to her. She didn't know the difference, but yeah, he's amazing.
I like that. I was going to say an early congrats on 2 years in October. Is that right?
Yeah. October 10th. Thank you. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, we.
Now. Oh, go for it.
I was going to say we've been together for a long time, but yeah, we've been married.
Well, that was going to be my question. How long have you two actually dated? Because I've heard conflicting numbers depending on who you ask.
Well, it's funny. You ask her, it's a different time period than when I say 6 to 7 years before we got married. So we've been together for 8 or 9. About 2015, I think. And she'll tell you 2014. I'll tell you 2015. But when we first were dating, I was on the road heavily. Like we've scaled back in the last 3 years, but I was on the road so much that even though we dated for a year, we might have been around each other for 6 months. So it didn't. It sounds like we were dating for a long time before we got married, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But up until 2020, when we got shut down and we couldn't go on the road, that was the first time we had been around each other for a month straight. For 4 years before that, we had never been together for a month straight because I was always on the road.
Is that when you realized you two could coexist?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We bought a house in 2019, but same thing. It's like I was there for a couple of days and I'd be gone. But then whenever 2020 rolled around, we were around each other for a year, and that's whenever I realized this will work. And she's amazing. We actually have a birthday 2 days apart, same year. So I'm 2 days older than her. So she's the perfect one for me.
That's cool. Now, when you do get the chance to be home, where is that? Where do you call home?
Currently, I live in Royce City, Texas. It's 40 minutes east of Dallas, and even though that sounds kind of close to the big city of Dallas, it's still a really small town. It's blowing up pretty quick. We've been out there for 4 years, and in the 4 years we've been there, it's getting pretty developed and pretty populated. We're planning on trying to find some land back towards where our families live in East Texas. So the Tyler, Palestine and Tyler areas.
Okay.
We're planning on looking for land next year, maybe hopefully start building in the year or two after that. So.
Now, are you going to be raising chickens, having goats, cattle, or are you going to keep it simple?
Probably just a lot of dogs. If I had to guess, probably just a lot of dogs because she loves dogs.
Couple schnauzers.
Yeah. We got 2 right now, and I'm sure she'll want a couple more. And I'm fine with that. I like dogs. So
That
chickens. We had chickens when I was younger. I don't think I could do that again.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it was kind of a rough time.
We have a friend. We have a really good friend that's got some chickens, and I don't know how they do it.
No, yeah.
No.
We
get the eggs, but that's it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you could go into the Whiskey Myers egg business, maybe. That could be a possibility.
Yeah, I might need to keep that in my back pocket. That's a good retirement plan right there.
No joke.
See. Now, obviously, you're a drummer. Whiskey Myers is doing well. You guys have been at this for a while. Did you always grow up on music? Like, was music something you loved and wanted to play and things like that?
Music was always something that I liked, but I never really thought about playing any music until about the sixth or seventh grade. In 6th grade, they do beginning band, and who ended up being my brother-in-law at the time, it was my sister's boyfriend. He played. He was in the high school drum line, and I thought it was so cool. I was like, drums were the only thing that really interested me. as far as musical instruments were concerned. But then in sixth grade, you take this. They do a test basically to see what instrument you're best suited for, depending on various things. And the band director wanted me to play tuba because he said I had good. I guess to be able to blow through the mouthpiece, you have to have these certain shaped lips. And he said my lips were perfect for tuba, and I said I am not playing tuba. No offense to anybody out there that plays tuba, because I think it's an instrument, but I had my heart set on drums, so I told him I'm playing drum. So sixth grade, yeah, I started on snare drum, and then seventh grade, maybe between seventh and eighth grade, my parents bought me my first drum kit, and that's basically how I learned how to play the drum set. Was I would just kind of listen to songs, and or I played at a CD player. I'd turn the CD player up as loud as it would go, just so I could hear it over the drums, and then I would play for hours. And my parents, I owe everything to my parents, because they never once complained about the noise. My room was directly back to their bedroom, so I know it had to have been loud. But I would stop around 10 at the latest. I wouldn't go crazy late. But I would play for hours, just put a CD in and just play, and that's how I learned how to play.
Now, what kind of music did you grow up on? Like, what was that type of music that you would put on and just play for hours and practice and all that good stuff?
Well, my parents were pretty good influences as far as the classics, like Zeppelin and AC/DC and Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. But whenever I started to play the drums, it was late 90s, early 2000s, and my brother, I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and he was listening to a lot of like grunge and some heavy metal and stuff like that. Even though I could never play the bass drum requirements for heavy metal music, but I would play stuff like Nirvana. I would play a lot of stuff like that, the grunge scene and some metal bands, but then as I got older, I started to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit as far as what I would try to play to.
Now, when did it become more than like, obviously you said you never really grew up thinking music would be something. Like when did you get into like bands and things like that? Like was that something that came naturally, or was that like someone was like, "Hey, I need a drummer, you drum, let's do this"?
Well, so the band members that are original members in this band we're all from the same area, and it's not a very big area, so not too many other drummers were around. I actually only knew of 2 or maybe 3 other drummers, and there weren't a whole lot of guitar players either. So if you played an instrument, you knew the other people. But
you were in a band.
None of us had none of us had ever been in a band before. This is everyone. We all tried it at the same time, and so we all learned everything at the same time, and we all kind of. That's another thing that I really appreciate, is that sometimes whenever musicians get in arguments, if there's one guy and a bunch of hired musicians, the one guy will fire the other guys. But we're an actual band, so we'll have arguments. We haven't had one in a long time. It's been when we were younger, we used to have more frequently, but we would have an argument, and then instead of someone getting their feelings hurt and then firing somebody, we would just figure it out. We would figure it out, fix it, and then resolve whatever the issue was, and then go on, and then we would, continue to play. And I don't know, it's different when you go through it like that versus if you're just a hired hand.
Now, how did the group that is today Whiskey Myers get formed? Was it just slowly but surely you all kind of came together, had some success at some gigs, and things just slowly built?
Yeah, there's still 4 of us that are original. The only person that isn't original was our bass player, Gary, and he's actually our lead singer's cousin. And he played with us for 10 years. So whenever I talk about Gary, I make sure to tell people that he didn't quit, because quit makes it sound like you don't put in the work. He put in 10 years. I tell people that he retired from the road, because it was never really his thing. He didn't like being on the road, and he was the first one that was married, and he had a kid at home. So when it came to a point where he needed to not be on the road anymore, he stopped playing. And then Jamie, who is our bass player now, he's been with us since I think 2016 is whenever Gary retired. And then so Jamie's been the only other bass player we've ever had, and we knew him from a band, John David Kent. We knew them from our days running around and just doing Texas gigs. And Tony, our percussion and keyboard player, he was in Jamie's band. So it's been pretty much the same 4 members plus 2 members of another band. So it feels like we've known each other forever.
Well, I mean, that's an awesome thing, because I feel like that doesn't happen too often. And obviously, like you said, you guys have been at this for, 17, 18, 20 years now. What's
16.
that journey been like? Because people see, like, the success, 16, so they see the success you're having now, but they forget that you've been doing it for a while.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people tend to forget, like, yeah, we would play gigs where there was 4 people showed up. We played in Amarillo one time, and there was 4 people there. I think it was 2 couples. So it was like, it was a double date or something like that. But it's been long, and it's been a lot of work, but I feel like it's worth it more, and you appreciate it more, versus if you have instant success. I feel like those people don't appreciate it and kind of waste it. So I'm very thankful for being where we're at, and it took 16 years to get here, but we're still going, and and the venues are getting bigger, and the crowds are still getting bigger. So
That's awesome. Now, to add to that, to piggyback off that, when was the moment that you guys knew that, all right, we're a big damn deal now? Like, when was? Do you remember that moment, or was there a moment where we're like, all right, guys, we're a pretty big deal now?
there wasn't an instant moment, and I still, as far as myself personally, I try to keep myself as level-headed and down to earth as possible, because I feel like an ego is a big killer. Like it can ruin bands. So, but I do feel like the band is a big deal. I feel like myself, I'm just a guy that got lucky playing the drums. So I try to keep it that way. But there was no moment where I thought, oh wow, we are a big deal. I mean, maybe playing Red Rocks, or maybe the Stones show. But again, that's just, I feel like we were lucky and fortunate more than a big deal, if that makes sense.
Right.
Now, I've got a tough question for y'all. You got to be on Yellowstone. You got to actually, I believe, perform on one of the episodes and things like that. But did you guys ever get to meet Kevin Costner?
We did not. No. Yeah, I know. That's. We were pretty bummed about that too, because we didn't know. We thought there would be a chance that we would get to meet him when we agreed to do the shoot, but he wasn't in the scene that we were in, so there was no reason for him to be there. But we don't film TV shows, so we didn't know that. We thought, oh, maybe he'll be there hanging out. No, he was probably on his ranch somewhere. And the whole Yellowstone deal, that was pretty interesting, because I try to remind people there are some people that say we only blew up because of Yellowstone, but when we signed on, when we agreed to do Yellowstone, there was no episode. Nothing had been released. So we didn't know. All we knew was Kevin Costner's name was attached to it, so we thought it might be good, but there's no guarantee that it was going to be good, and we definitely didn't know it was going to be as big as it ended up being. So we took a chance. We shot that outside of Salt Lake City. I can't remember the exact name of the town. I think it was. No, actually, I'm not going to say the name because I'll probably say the wrong name. So, but it was outside of Salt Lake City, and we were in the middle of touring. We flew to Salt Lake and did that on a Monday, I think, and then we had to fly home and then go back on the road. So I mean, we took a chance doing that, and then it ended up being beneficial. But there's people now that they'll write songs just for the sole reason of pitching it to Yellowstone. So that has definitely been a big factor in where we're at right now. But we didn't do anything different other than just play our music. It ended up being on a bigger audience.
But my wife chimed in. She remembers you well before then. She's been a big fan for a long time. That was just an extra bonus when she watched Yellowstone.
Well, tell her I said thank you. I appreciate that.
and obviously you guys have had. I mean, you've had great songs well before then. After then, you got a new album out right now, Tornillo. How did that one come about, and what's it been like being able to release that and share that with everyone?
Tornillo is actually the name of the town that the recording studio is in that we recorded. The last two albums, the self-titled album, we call it the White Album, and then the Tornillo album were done at Sonic Ranch, and in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, on a pecan tree farm. It's one of the coolest recording studios I've ever been to, but it's just got this vibe to it. It feels like you're in the middle of nowhere and there's no distractions. They have TV out there if you wanted to watch TV, but there's no distractions as far as interacting with anything other than the studio. So I mean, they have cooks out there. They make you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's lodging out there, so you stay there on the premises. And after a while, you just kind of feel like you're part of that area. You feel like you're from Tornillo. And it's been fun playing a lot of those songs. A lot of our stuff is different from one song to the other. It's like we don't have a distinct sound. Like we don't have one type of sound, so it's always interesting to play a song that's more rock and then follow it up with a song that's a little more on the countryside and then follow it up with a song that's on the blues side. So it's just, there's no defined sound that we go by.
With that, how is the recording process for you guys? Like, do you have any? You all just kind of bounce off each other with ideas, or songwriting process and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Cody writes the majority of the songs. John writes some. Cody Tate has written a few. They haven't really collaborated with writers in a while, but they have in the past. I know Cody, he likes to just write for himself, and not. I mean, he'll collaborate every now and then, but he likes to just write stuff on his own. But he'll come up with a melody or a guitar part for a song and the lyrics, and then he'll record it, have it recorded, and bring it to us. And then from there, we that's when the rest of us kind of put our own spin on things. Like I'll come up with the drum part that I feel like matches the part that he's playing on the guitar, and then John and Cody Tate, they'll figure out the rhythm and lead guitar parts, and we collaborate as far as our own instruments. And sometimes someone will say to me, "Hey, try this on the drums," or I'll say, "Hey, try this on the guitar and see what this sounds like." It's a very, very much a group effort when it comes to us making music, and that's another thing that I love about being here. It's not one person in charge that says, "Hey, do it this way. This is how I want it done." It's a group effort.
That's really cool. And I'm always curious because I always talk to folks that are songwriters. So I was curious to see how you got to add your part because I never get to ask that that question very often. And it's kind of neat to see that you just kind of have your idea behind the song and it just kind of builds from there.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize. I mean, some drum beats they all sound the same, but a drum beat can you play one beat on one song, and then someone else plays their interpretation of what they think the drum beat should be, and it sounds like a completely different song just by changing what the drums are doing. So.
And obviously, you guys have been able to go out on tour. You guys are headlining, like you said. You got the venues are getting bigger, the crowds are getting bigger. What's that been like for y'all to kind of grow from, say, a smaller 1,000-seat standing room only place to arenas around the world?
Man, it's been really fun. It's the last 2 years is when we really started doing arenas, and I honestly never thought we'd get to this level. I was always going to be satisfied with playing like House of Blues level theaters, like your 1,000, 1,500 cap venues, which I still like those places. I never really thought we'd get to arenas, but we started it last year and it's been great. And now we're doing this summer. We're doing a lot of amphitheaters, outdoor shows, which we've been lucky so far as weather's concerned. But yeah, I think tonight this is a 5,000 cap venue, and it's almost sold out in Boston, and it still blows my mind.
That's cool. Now, what for the band and yourself personally, what is some of y'all's favorite songs to play?
So, my current favorite might be John Wayne, just because that drum beat, it's very different than any of the other songs that I played. That's another instance of me saying like a drum beat can make one song sound different. And that song, I call it my disco beat. It sounds like if you take the guitar parts out and just play the drums, it sounds very much like a disco beat, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's just different. So it makes it a little change of pace for me. But there's a couple other songs that I really like playing. I like Glitter Ain't Gold. We have a really cool outro that we've been doing on that.
My wife walked by and just shook her head. Glitter and Gold, like absolutely. That is one of her favorites. I love that because it's always interesting too, because like for you get to probably show off more things on certain songs too, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I'll come up with a feel that I wish I had thought of when we were in the studio, but the studio process goes by so fast that I really have time, just enough time to learn the song and then track it, and then maybe a year later, after we've been playing it live for a couple months, I'll feel like, man, I wish I could have done that on the record. But then I'll start doing it live, and just kind of changes it up too.
That's awesome, and as you guys get to move around and do things, I know you guys have come through Kentucky. You did Railbird this summer in Lexington. You did Owensboro. Obviously, Bespoken's coming to Lexington. You guys just randomly going to show up every now and then?
I don't know. Randomly? I mean, maybe randomly to everyone else. I'm sure it'll be scheduled. I mean, there's so many people we have to schedule out now. Like, as far as band members go, we have to approve it. But yeah, it would be nice to head out there and check it out. Actually, since you mentioned Railbird, I think that might have been the hottest show that we played all year. That was so hot, and the sun. We played 5 or 6 in the afternoon, something like that. And the sun was right in our face, and I was just drenched in sweat. But hopefully, when we come back to Kentucky, it won't be that hot.
The humidity gets you all the time.
we were too. It was hot. Thankfully, they had water stations, and we could stay hydrated. Now, you mentioned Red Rocks. Obviously that was like one of your bucket list ones. How cool was it to check one of those off?
Red Rocks it still is. I was going to say it was special, but it still is special to me because that was the number one the pinnacle venue for me to play. And I had never been to a concert there. I didn't want to go to a concert there. I didn't want to see the place until it was time for us to play it. And then we also decided a long time ago that we didn't want to play unless we were headlining it. So it took a long time to get there. It took 15 years to get there, but actually being able to play at Red Rocks to a sold-out crowd, it's a magical place. I don't know if y'all have ever been there or you plan on going, but I highly recommend it.
I would love to. Now, with you guys being on tour, you got a couple different groups that kind of get to play and open up for you. One of them's a friend of the show, Matt Cozell. Had him on.
Yeah.
He was a blast to talk to. How do you've had Drayton Farley, Brent Cobb, 49 Winchester. How do you guys pick or find out who's going to go on tour with you and perform with y'all? Because I feel like it's a hell of a group of performers.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Matt because he's actually sound checking right now, so I can hear him in my right ear. I'm not very far from the stage. A lot of those guys, management will bring to us, and then they'll play some of their music for us, and if we dig it, we'll say yeah, let's put them on a run. And Matt's been on a lot of shows this year. He's been with us maybe since April. A few shows here or there he won't be able to be on, but he's been with us for a while. 49 Winchester's on with us tonight too. We did a bunch of shows last year with them. And then Brent and Cody used to write together about 10 years ago. I don't know if they've written in a while, but we've known Brent for so long. Before he was even performing, he was just writing back then. And then that's how we met Dave Cobb, Brent's cousin, and we recorded with Dave twice. And so some of those connections are organically, as far as like meeting other bands out on the road and you just like their music, and then sometimes it's brought to you by a management or a booking agent, and they suggest it, and then it fits. So
Nice. Now, what's on the horizon? Like what us as huge fans, because I know for myself, and I know that John and his wife Emily, 9 times out of 10 when I walk in the house after work, I'm telling Alexa to play Whiskey Myers, and they just roll through the whole, every song that they can that's on the platform can play, and I'm good with it. So, us as big fans, obviously, what can we expect on the horizon? Y'all got anything, big coming up, or whatever it may be, shows, albums, just anything?
Well, the plan right now is to just keep playing shows. We want to go record. I don't think we're ready to record yet, and that's such a long process, and a lot of people don't realize like it takes so long to put out a record. And the Tornado album, we recorded majority of that in January of 21, and it didn't come out until June of last year. So it's a long process, but the plan is to go back to the studio at some point when songs have been written, and I think we might move to a different studio just to kind of change it up, but not sure which studio it would be yet. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but we are planning on doing a run of acoustic full band shows, which I think we've done one or two at shows here and there, but we've never toured it before, so I think I know we're going to do it. I don't know if we're allowed to announce that yet. So.
Yeah. Well, if it's anywhere within the vicinity of the state of Kentucky, I will be at one of those.
There is one. I'll make sure y'all get a heads up first.
Oh, that'd be.
There we go.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we like that, and we also are enjoying some of the Uncle Chicken. At least I am. Brandon, I'll let you have some here next time I see you once you get back from your trip.
Don't be selfish.
Well, Jeff, man, this has been a yeah. There you go. There you go, Brandon. You can get your own bottle.
Hey, that would be amazing. If I get
Well,
your,
Jeff,
if I can get your signature on it too, that way I can just make fun of John and be like, hey, like, see what you
Yeah, my wife might be mad at that one.
I'll see what we can do.
Hey, she got Thomas Red on one, so I think we're okay. But Jeff, man, this has been a blast. Thanks for talking Whiskey Myers, some whiskey with us, and just having a good time.
Yeah, man.
I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me on, and appreciate everything, man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.